I reached out to her, and I know her from food scene. This is Mimi A. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm going to read from my phone. It's only 5 minutes though, so you're okay. So my name's Mimi A. I'm also known as Mimali. I was asked to help host tonight by Mane, who I don't think she's introduced herself. She's one of the co-founders of New Burma. She's like the brainchild, along with various other people, including Phil down there, who's been great to see. I'm a writer based here in the UK. I come from a family of artists. My great aunt and my great uncle were the legendary Dudu Dorma and Dudu Ula. One of my uncles is the award-winning photographer Li Boulay. My uncle was songwriter Inzali Mau Mau, who wrote the beloved Burmese New Year's song, the Jiao Mo. My family is from Myanmar, where books have been destroyed, artwork has been censored, and poets, writers, comedians, musicians, and artists have been persecuted, imprisoned, and even murdered for speaking out against the military dictatorship. 3 of the 4 relatives that I just mentioned were all political prisoners. And this has been happening in Myanmar for decades, since the first military coup in 1962, which occurred after the British left Burma in a mess, basically. I know a lot of you know the background already, but I was asked to give a very quick summary, so I will. So the first military dictator, a guy called General Ne Win, he ruled with terror and impunity. He drove Myanmar into poverty. It was one of the richest countries in Asia. He pursued economic isolation. He demonetized the local currency, which means that he just went, fuck it, I'm going to change all the currency. This wiped out people's savings overnight. He did this 3 times. So the third time was in 1987, and it was the final straw. It gave rise to nationwide protests that were led by students in 1988. The army cracked down and they massacred the protesters in what is known as the 888 uprising. We just had the anniversary. The streets literally ran with blood. Some reports say that up to 10,000 people were murdered. Countless others were jailed. At the time, Aung San Suu Kyi emerged as a fierce opponent of the military. Now, the military were threatened by her popularity. She was the leader of the National League of Democracy, known as the NLD, and they put her under house arrest for 15 years. So the people of Myanmar continued to be reigned by military dictatorship for the next 2 decades. In 2015, finally sick of Myanmar being treated as a pariah state, and in a bid to get sanctions lifted, the military held their first seemingly free elections. Dorsu's NLD, they wanted a landslide, and they were allowed to form an uneasy coalition. It was written as a constitution that Dorsu and her party didn't actually have any real power, but this was enough. This felt like the first semblance of real democracy in Myanmar, and it meant that there was a new generation of artists who had the courage to express themselves openly, and they were no longer having to face censorship and worse. So it meant the art and music scene in Myanmar just began to thrive. But sadly, this was a fragile democracy, as many of you already know. In the case of a horrible deja vu, last year, the newest dictator, General Min Aung Hlaing, staged a coup. He overturned the re-elections. He arrested the civilian government, which still included Dorsu, and he declared a state of emergency. The people responded by going on strike. This is known as the Civil Disobedience Movement, CDM. Protest art appeared everywhere in the country, in the form of murals, poetry, music, so much more. The military responded the way they always do. They opened fire. 2,000 people have been killed so far by the Burma military and the police, including peaceful protesters, general strikers, complete bystanders, and hundreds of children. 12,000 people still languish in brutal prisons under ludicrous laws that criminalise the slightest form of dissent, and nearly 1 million people have been displaced within the country. And the military continues to target artists. And do you know why they do that? Because artists, they give us hope. At least 4 poets have been murdered since the coup. Go Kezawin, Nam Yamyanzir, Go Kitty and Usengwin. Go Raymond, the frontman of seminal rock band The Idiots, died of malaria while he was fleeing military persecution. And just last month, Go Pyoseako, also known as nitric acid, former NLD MP, activist, rapper, and frontman of the pioneering hip-hop group Acid, was executed along with 3 other men. while the rest of the world just stood by and watched. The mural on the roller screen outside, which you'll see through at the end, and also on the Instagram of a New Burma, is a tribute to nitric acid. My great aunt Luda Dorma once wrote, "For those of us who do not dance to the tune of the authorities, we must be creative in what we write to get the message across." This applies to all artists in every medium. So thank you so much to all of the artists who continue to fight and to bravely speak out. And please support us today in creating a new Burma that's free from tyranny. The revolution must succeed. Ierobong Aoyami.
Thank you.